On 25th November 2006, the redevelopment State Library of Queensland building was opened to the public, which came within the ambitious plan known as the Millennium Library Project, a new cultural and knowledge destination setting a benchmark for state libraries within Australia and the Southern Hemisphere. An event titled Everyday Idol was launched, giving publicity via the State Library's own quarterly magazine, as you can see here, in the week leading up to the opening, thus promoting the role libraries can play in social history and thereby highlighting how we can learn from each other, our mentors, and everyday idol.
All right. Well, hi Joe. Thanks for having me along today. We had to talk a little bit about what you've been up to. You have successfully worked on building a regular group together. Why was this important to you?
Cover, it all started when I was sort of accepted as a songwriter by APRA, and was looking forward for this sort of forum, you see, get some sort of feedback. That's it.
Okay.
And yeah, they are.
Okay. I always enjoy listening to your latest pieces of work and having a go at providing feedback. I don't know if it's always good feedback or not. The other aspect I look forward to is the intermittent breaking out with loud and raunchy jokes, brain teasers and close-up magic.
Look, mate, we had enough of this crap during office hours 9 to 5. And I always try to make sure that we don't get caught up with all these routine roller coasters. Jeremy, let me correct something. I have not attained that routine sort of magic where I go from rope tricks to card tricks and things like that. I have not attained that. I have few other things up my sleeves, to tell you frankly, and I am working on it.
I look forward to seeing it, Joe. What are your future plans for these gatherings?
Good question, but if things can't change, like somebody's getting married and not relocating and this sort of crap, I'll expand my web page and, have a bit of a newsletter and spotlight in advance what we are proposing to do and what we have done, and little bit of sort of, highlights. And I propose to have in members' residence. And guess what? I'll have a chef special, and if there is an instrument available and handy, I'll go for a bit of a musical interlude. And there are other guys, Tom does something, Dave does something, so we all can just have a sing along, probably.
Not much of a singer, but I like the sounds of those chef specials. You obviously have a creative spirit. Where does this come from?
Jeremy, look, it's sort of expressing my own feelings. I don't sort of consider it as a creative thing. And just follow the intuition and just don't sort of copy other people and their beliefs and ideas. Just be what I am, and then, hey presto, the creative juice just flows in the correct direction. Anybody can do it, but the problem is they get caught up with other people's affairs, and then they get all sidetracked.
Yes, yeah. It seems like you have a lot of organising ahead. Do these events always go as planned?
You won't believe which is going against according to plans, unless of course you are really in a formal situation. Sometimes it just adds a bit of color. Somebody doing a mistake, it's sort of a thing, a bit of a laughing stock. I recall sprinkling salt instead of sugar on a Bombay, Alaska. Then a brother had he's a bit of a cook, and he get into the odd craze, like doing something extraordinary. And what he did was, he bought a heart, a lung, a kidney and a brain, and blended up with egg mix and scooped out some seeds from the big pumpkin and baked it. And it took all midnight, and it was really disgusting. My
Sure.
sister still recalls. Oh dear.
It sounds disgusting, Joe.
Disgusting. It's not the word. Disgusting is not the word.
Well, hopefully that's not served up at one of the chef's specials.
No, yeah. There was another one recently. I spoke to a flatmate of mine, rather previous flatmate, and what he did was, like a smart ass, he wanted to sort of suggest that he would be in control of a barbecue and call his mom and dad and the whole family on a public holiday, and to his dismay he found that the gas bottle was empty, and being a public holiday he couldn't get it, and what he had to do is to beg, borrow, steal, and luckily for him a neighbor obliged, and of course there were those cheap packet of fire starters and coal and things like that, and because it was so cheap the Weber didn't get it going, and they were all frying, or rather cooking meat in a frying pan till 10 o'clock in the night. That's the sort of scenario. And another one, the same bloke, in the same crowd when we were dining, another bloke came up with another aspect where his cousin actually served sausage rolls with ice cream. Guess what happened? She made apple rolls and sausage rolls and put them in the freezer, and took the wrong container out and stuck it in the oven and served it up. I think there are heaps of mistakes, but we all take it in lighter ways, and then we enjoy it. That's the deal there, Jeremy.
And it gives you stories for your next eating sessions to talk about anyway.
I think so.
And I suppose this takes a lot of planning. How much of your time does this take up?
Well, it takes a considerable amount of time, but the thing is that it doesn't take my prime time. When I say prime time, what happened is I am a regular traveler on the public transport, and what I do is I do the practicing while on the move, like food on the run. I do the odd things on the run, so I don't waste much time, but I do sort of have to get it right, almost in the correct perspective, so I need to sort of brush up things, but I really don't sort of waste time on it. It's time well spent, put it that way.
And knowing you as I do, I bet the fellow commuters are being drawn into your jokes and tricks and being practiced on.
Oh, you are a mind reader. I tell you what, there's a bit of a psychology here. Some people don't like, but you have to really work your way through and should not rub the wrong shoulder. Once the Viber starts working, then what I do is I just start with the basic, like current affairs, the weather and all that sort of stuff, and then if God willing and weather permitting and if they are really into that, then I just ask them whether they would like to sort of share my tricks and things, and people oblige. They are, of course, all are human beings, so it's just a matter of approaching in the correct way. That's about it.
Do you find most people reciprocate, are happy to listen? And
well, I should say from my experience, between 20 and 40s, they are very accommodative, but other than that, they just would be wasting your time with the smallies and the oldies sort of thing.
One thing I've noticed about you is you always carry yourself with confidence and are never afraid to approach strangers. Do you think this comes from your background of global travelling?
You're asking me, Jeremy, you have been bitten by the travel bug much more than me. I tell you what, from whatever that I have listened from you, you have much more experience. But yes, trotting not only in this aspect, it has actually brought in a lot of wealth of knowledge to me and help me to sort of integrate with the society without much difficulty. And I have still a few pen pals. You don't really have pen pals as such, but we have virtual friends from China, Germany, and France.
Wow. Yeah.
And that sort of helps me to sort of keep in touch the pretty sort of languages.
Yeah, have you picked up a few language skills to survive? You must have along your travels.
Picked up, I think a better word would be pinch from survival kits. I have sort of done a bit of research on those Lonely Planet series and got the few words from them, and that's working for me.
And so what about a favourite city with all your travels? Do you have a favourite city?
Nothing to beat Brisbane. I'll tell you what, it got it all. Without congestion and negative aspects. Climate is perfect. And multiculturalism is fantastic. And the warmth and the friendliness of the people, they are pretty straightforward and not pretentious. You know what I mean?
And so you find they're quite accepting of your background and your...
Well, I came to know through another friend of mine that this is a city where it has a lot of, it is the city which is the one of its kind which has its name after a river, and I'm glad the council is using the river the fullest potential. And that's sort of my understanding, and I find this is the most livable city that I have been.
Okay. I find the same. I've lived in a few cities myself, so I do love Brisbane. And so what do you do to earn a crust? How are you able to afford these many ventures you have going?
Well, I have been in the mainstream accounting for some time, but now I am deviating into forensic and para accounting, which is a new line, and a bit of data modeling and financial modeling. And I am more in the damage control and troubleshooting areas with computer accounting. What happens is I am always inundated with other people's problems, and then it's a case that just keeping me bubbly, and I bring in a few bit of jokes and things like that.
I think being accounting, that might need that.
Yeah, it's pretty boring stuff sometimes, but you just have to keep the ball rolling and heighten the enthusiasm and trying to do things bit in lighter vein. If not, it's somewhat stressful.
And what would you say would be a highlight of your many achievements?
This happened way back in Sri Lanka when the professor of chemistry in the Colombo University acknowledged my contributions on the submissions that I have made on behalf of the Chemical Society. And then I got adequate press coverage for that.
Okay. And sitting here today is my first foray into the media world. Is this your first?
First, not really the first in Australia. Last February, I was a victim to a Channel 9 extra cameraman caught with my, I don't know what's his name, I don't want to mention the name. And last May, there was a press release in the Rave Mag. And then, of course, my originals are being played almost all the states in Australia, and now here we are, face to face.
I've heard some of them, Joe. I enjoy them. So you're obviously a regular entertainer. And how about sports? You come from a cricket mad nation. Have you taken up the sport at all?
Oops. I'm afraid. I have been into a bit of karate and basketball, maybe due to the height and things like that. But I have never sort of shone in the field of cricket. But in that also, I needed to keep myself fit while I was a volunteer officer in the Navy.
Oh, okay. Ah. And what motivates you and influences you in your day-to-day life and, in fact, your many ventures?
It's the responsibility for my work which motivates me. I have to do a job of work and see that that's right and it's been delivered to the required criterias. And the last thing that I want to hear would be terrorism. And also my choices are being influenced by what I believe. Of course, I get some informed sources to enlighten me a few things, a couple of things, but generally I sort of firmly believe in what I do and go ahead.
Yes, yes. And given Sri Lanka's rich gastronomic culture, you must have a favourite traditional dish?
Dish is called Atavalu ala beet, which is a delicacy in Sri Lanka made out of tuna, potatoes and diced beetroots.
Sounds nice. You have to make it for me one day. Do you have any regrets, Joe?
I will.
Does anything annoy you?
What annoys me is actually people who try to apes other people, and those people are predominantly the new rich, and sometimes they do not know what they are talking, but they are just like parrots telling things and all that sort of scrap. I try to keep my arm's length and just get out of it, sort of thing.
Yes, yes. And what would be your greatest strength? And do you have a motto that you live by?
Being able to put myself in other people's shoes is really my strength, and it helps me to actually relate to others. And let me think about the motto. Yeah, this is the gig. There is no rehearsal. I say to myself, enjoy every moment and live for now. Now, yes, now. Because this is it. You don't get a second chance.
Very good. A favourite Jim Morrison quote of mine, and appropriate given your love of music. How about any books? Has any books inspired you?
Of course, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And this book has given some ideas which serve as a roadmap for my career.
Okay, in your work life or personal life or in general? Is that overall?
Both, I think, put it that way, both ways. Yeah.
Okay. And if there's one big thing you could do in this world, what would it be?
Is it something like if I rule the world for 1 month or 1 week or something like that? Maybe you're coming from that angle.
Yeah, a month, that'll do.
Okay.
Got to give everyone else a go.
Combining all what I have been bestowed, I would rather opt to get the participation of popular artists and have a world band aid, and I will give all the proceedings to the poorest of the poor.
Yeah.
What happens sometimes with that is something like a connotation will be something which happened with that song "We Are the World."
Yes. Yeah.
So that sort of thing.
Okay. Oh, great. And well, thanks very much for having a chat, Joe, and it's a pleasure as always. You've lined up one of your pieces of music for us to finish up with today. And which is that?
I think I appreciate your phrase there, one of yours, and we just now touched on the Band-Aid sort of thing. I created a bit of an appeal song for the tsunami, and this is it. And it was done just only 3 weeks after the tsunami, and here we are.
Okay, thank you.
Goes on and on and on, fulfilling money and greedy. Things go on and on and on and on till nature could tolerate. Doomsday when tsunami hit, where countries killing thousands, leaving homeless a couple of millions. Time has come to be our focus keeper. Work together to rebuild what was lost. Time has come to be our focus keeper. Work together to rebuild what was